Welcome to Career Pathways, a series developed by the School of Humanities and Social Sciences at Indiana University East. We will introduce you to professionals in our region who hold an undergraduate degree in the liberal arts. Our conversations will explore the pathways that have led them to their current professional positions. We will also learn more about the knowledge and skills they gained as undergraduates that have aided them in their professional lives.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on this episode of Career Pathways. I am your host, Liz Ferris, the Career and Experiential Learning Coordinator at Indiana University East. And today I am here with Amber Hall and Jeff Cappa to learn about the pathways that they have pursued. I would first like to start with having each of you introduce yourselves, tell us about your undergraduate major that you studied, and actually both of you came here to Indiana University East. So tell a little bit about that and then where you currently work.
Well, I am a 2006 graduate of IU East with a degree in Humanities and Fine Arts with a concentration in English. And I started off, as soon as I graduated, I started off as a secretary at a local high school. And I am working here as administrative secretary to our Dean of Students and pursuing a master's degree in English.
Great, thanks Amber.
I'm Jeff Cappa. I'm the Sheriff of Wayne County, and I received my degree in, which was SPIA at the time, in criminal justice in 1996. And I've had my entire career with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office since 1980 to present time. So.
Thank you. So the first question after that I would like to ask is, why did each of you choose the area of study that you chose? I don't know if you want to start, Jeff?
Well, I kind of did a little bit backwards, so to speak. I decided when I was in high school that I wanted to get into law enforcement, and after getting hired at the Sheriff's Office in 1980 as a correctional officer and a dispatcher, I was approached by a couple of officers there that currently had their degrees about going out to IU East and getting a degree in criminal justice. So I came out and signed up for classes, and was kind of the non-traditional student because I was taking classes, working full-time, and also a part-time job as I was trying to get my degrees. So.
That makes total sense.
Well, when I started IU East, it was right after high school, and I wanted to be a teacher. When I grew up, I wanted to be a teacher. So I entered the School of Education, and I did that for about 3.5 years. Wow. And then I decided maybe I don't want to be an actual high school or elementary teacher, but I loved the world of education. So I changed my major to Humanities and Fine Arts with concentration in English, thanks to a couple of very influential professors. And I grew to absolutely love literature and writing, documentary, I mean, everything. So that is, after I graduated and I entered working as a secretary to high school, I realized, I love the school setting, but being a teacher can be very difficult, very political, but very rewarding. So I thought, do I want to be a teacher? And if I do, what kind of teacher do I want to be? So I kind of stayed in the education realm for a little while. And I was hired here at IU East, again, the educational world. But then I finally decided, I think I really do want to teach. But I want to teach at the college level because I want to teach the writing and the literature, and I want to be able to inspire a student in the same way that the professors inspired me.
Wow, so that is true. You've stayed in the education realm, so that really wasn't very far off. You just changed your major. And of course, Jeff, your path makes a lot of sense, and you really had a career path lined up, so to speak, but went to get the credentials to back that up. So you've already explained pretty much what your plans were as you developed and as you, Amber, switched into a different degree program. When we think about undergraduate degrees, we think about both knowledge and skills that students will learn. Was there anything surprising about the knowledge each of you gained in your major? And following that up, what were those skills if you did gain some? How have you been able to apply this knowledge and skill set in your current role, or maybe how did you apply it at some point in time?
Well, for me, probably just liberal arts world just, it opened up my eyes to everything around me. I grew up in a very small community, so culture, diversity wasn't a part of my life. And I come to IU East, I study in liberal arts, and I realize there's a huge world out there. So that has made me a more accepting person, I think. And in the world of academia, you have to accept everybody who walks through the door, no matter what their affiliation with anything is. So I have kind of learned that in my role as a secretary, student conflicts come up, and it could be anything. It could be my grade is terrible, or so-and-so at the high school level, so-and-so is picking on me because of whatever reason. And you have to have people skills to deal with situations like that, whether it be problems or achievements or I need help with my homework. I mean, anything.
And you're the front line in those situations, and I'm guessing sometimes the other people in the office aren't available.
Exactly. So, they come to the secretary first, and if they can't get to the counselor or the dean or whoever they need, a lot of times they will stop and talk to you, So, I mean, I'm not an official, crisis intervention problem solver, but I do kind of try to head it off at the pass and try to level it out maybe a little bit before it gets to the dean or to the counselor.
Great, thanks.
Mine was kind of unique because going through training to learn the skill sets that you need to have for my profession, I also had the opportunity to being instructed by several judges that I was working with within the local court systems, and also some of the professors that I had during that time at IU East. We're also very much involved in the criminal justice system, so to speak, in the Wayne County area. So that helped kind of mesh everything together for me as I was studying for that degree. As you stated, in our line of work, you have the same scenario situation where you have to have good communication skills, not only written communication skills, but able to speak well. You also have an opportunity to meet many different types of people from many different types of backgrounds, depending on the situation. And that helped me as I was going through my classes here at IU East to learn from many different types of individuals who had many years of experience, so to speak, under their belt in these particular department areas or fields of study. And they were all very kind. I enjoyed my time at IU East because it felt like a family to me more than it did being in a classroom. Because not only was I seeing these judges or professors that I was taking classes from at night when I was going to IU East, I was also seeing them during the day when I was at work. And we would even have sidebar conversations, so to speak, in the courtroom after the proceedings were over with about maybe some of the topics that we were talking about in class. So I kind of helped mesh it all together, and that helped give me a greater sense of what I wanted to do and my career goal as being the sheriff.
And here's a follow-up question for you, Sheriff Cappa. You did not just wake up one day and become sheriff.
No.
I would like to hear more about your career path. I grew up on a farm west of here, and I remember one time we had to kind of herd cattle together that were loose, and back in the day. So I got to see you when you were in that role. But what was the path for you to get to a point where you are sheriff of Wayne County?
Well, I started actually being around the sheriff's office in 1978. 77 and 78. Sheriff John Cady had started a youth service program called the Wayne County Sheriff's Department Explorer Program. And as based with the Boy Scouts of America, it was a co-ed. And anyone that was interested in being learning about law enforcement, they were male or female, and they were over the age of 14 to the age of 18, could apply to get into this program, and then they would go through a process. If they were accepted, they had advisors in that group. And they basically gave you, you'd have meetings and have opportunities to have weekend projects and those type of things to understand what the law enforcement role was all about. I stayed in that program until I was around 17 or 18. And actually that worked into a part-time job for me. My junior year in high school, the summer between my junior and senior year, I was working as a dispatcher for the sheriff's office, and I got paid to do that part-time. My senior year, just getting ready to graduate in May, I was contacted in April by the jail commander and offered a job and wanted to know if I wanted to come work a second shift as a correctional officer. And I gave some thought to it, and I thought, I think I would like to do that, and that helped get me kind of started and where I wanted to go, and then I could go. I was planning on going to Bloomington, to IU to study. So I got my job and started working there from 3 to 11 p.m., and I've been there ever since. I've had the opportunity, I've been very blessed, I've had the opportunity to go out and be promoted, if so to speak, go through the hiring process from the jail division to becoming what they refer to as a road officer when I was 21. I was one of the youngest ones at the time, and the rest of them were in their mid-30s, and they too would take you under their wing, so to speak, and help you, and many of them had also studied and got their degrees at various locations. And I've had the opportunity working in the enforcement division to be a patrol officer, be a youth service officer. I was the first DARE officer the sheriff's office ever had in Wayne County, and worked with a lot of the schools, and a lot of the educators enjoyed that very much. Was an investigator for 2 years. You're talking about the cattle one day. I was the day shift supervisor, and when that happened. So I've had the opportunity to kind of work my way up through the ranks. The top 2 positions within the sheriff's organization by state statute in the state of Indiana, the chief deputy is usually appointed by the sheriff, and I was appointed by Sheriff Sturmatter to be his chief deputy. And then I ran for the office in 2010 and was elected, and I was just currently re-elected here just recently, a while back, about a year ago, to my second term. So it's kind of been my career through the office, and it's been more than a job. It was my goal when I was in the Explorer program one time that I wanted to be the sheriff of Wayne County sometime.
Interesting.
And so it's been more of a career for me than it has been a job. So.
Yeah. Well, you said some key points. You talked about experiential learning at a younger age, and then even just mentoring along the way. And slowly but surely opportunities were given to you. So
Yes.
that's fantastic. Amber, you had talked about being in different school settings. What are some things at the high school level when you had your job there that helped prepare you, perhaps even made you stand out among other candidates for the position you currently have in the dean's office?
I think just my experience in working in an office, you should know the word no, but not all secretaries do. And I did not know the word no. So anytime somebody needed something, whether it was something very simple or something very complicated, I was kind of the go-to person. We had state reports that had to be submitted through our office. They had to be 100% accurate because a lot of funding was tied to them. And when I was hired, I was trained, but you're never trained enough for a state report. And it was just kind of a learning process. You know, you submit it, there are red flags. You submit it again, there are fewer red flags. So it was just...
You were solely responsible for that?
Correct. And just the office setting, you know, simple office task, responsibilities of reporting. I was in charge of report cards, transcripts, grade books to make sure the teachers finalized properly. Something looked funny on the report card. Why? I don't know. Ask Amber. It was just problem solving after problem solving. And I think that growing in the high school helped to attain my job here at a higher, a little more difficult level. And of course having the degree. You know, it always is a wonderful thing to have a person with a degree because they have pushed themselves further in education, especially in the education world.
That's a great point. And I think you mentioned problem solving, and that is a skill that, you know, I won't say that a degree guarantees that, but I think that especially in the humanities, social sciences, if you're successful as a student, more than likely you're coming out of there with some problem solving skills in addition to communication and things like that. So that's great. Can either of you think of an opportunity or a challenge that caused you to employ the knowledge or skills you gained as an undergraduate? And I know, Jeff, you talked about even the training that you had as in addition to the education, and maybe you've already touched on this a bit. Can you think of something while you're in your studies that, you know, and it might be different for each of you, but that you do use today and you think back to having that education as being a help for that? I don't know.
I keep going back to people skills because it is so important to have people skills. You are the first person that people see when they walk in, and if you address them in the wrong way, it could make them mad. You know, they may be coming in with a problem and you will just be problem number 2. But just learning about communication skills, speech class, you know, I mean, something as, you know, I think I took speech as a freshman, but, and at that point, I did not like it. I did not like public speaking, but now I've been on, you know, a search and screen committee. I've been on several other committees, and I can just sit there and speak my point, you know, tell the people what I think, and I don't have a problem with that. And
I can contest to that.
and that is part of, you know, what you do in the classroom, you know, Socratic seminars and discussions and
Probably gaining confidence too.
confidence,
to
yes.
talk on that level.
You know, when you are studying literature, there's so many different viewpoints of why the author wrote that book. Well, why did they? Well, I might think one thing, Jeff might have a completely different idea. And when a person walks into the office, you know, you could look at them as an author coming in with an issue. How I address it may be different than how another person addresses it. So you kind of have to have a very open mind. And I think the liberal arts really cover having an open mind.
That's a great point.
She does a good job. We've served on the alumni board together, and she is very articulate, and she does a very good job of getting her view or her opinion across without offending people. But I can say, that's what I said, I can contest it. We've had many conversations when I was on that board. But I think for me that the organizational skills that I was taught in some of the classes have really benefited me over the years. One of the other things that I had to learn very young and when I was getting my degree was that in my line of work there are many different opinions. And there are many different opinions on how to reach maybe the same vision or the same goal. And to respect each one of those, but that doesn't mean that yours is wrong either. And how to communicate that to either one person or a group of individuals of what your vision is and what your strategies are to get to that, and be able to get them to understand that their opinion is important, but so is yours, and do it in a respectful manner. And being in a criminal justice field, when you're dealing with people, especially for the officers that are responding to calls that are out on the street, or as the administrator of a jail and the enforcement division, when I have people coming and complaining and wanting to come in and complain or speak to me about that talking with them and getting them to understand, number one, is what is actually the issue. Because I'm sure you've noticed this too, when people come in, they'll be complaining about 5 different things, but trying to get them nailed down on what exactly is the issue at hand that they're wanting to discuss with you. And then what the process is in dealing with that issue and how you're going to resolve that issue. And when you're dealing with people, that's something that's not really taught. That's something you have to learn. I mean, you get the skill set from your classes, you get taught by people who've been in that field for many, many years, but you have to have the experience and then put all that together.
And applying it, yes, that's a great point. So when both of you think about your own professional context and you look at the wider regional, national, perhaps even global context, how do you think that people with a background in liberal arts or humanities, social sciences, how do they contribute to growth and development, creativity, innovation?
Oh, I think they benefit greatly. I think a lot of people that you find to be either social leaders or just leaders in their field have some type of liberal arts background. And that's because they have good communication skills like we talked about. They have good organizational skills. They are not problem makers, but problem solvers, so to speak. They accept challenges. They don't quit. Just throw up their hands and say, I don't know, you deal with it. I mean, the people I've been around that I've worked with here locally at IU East and also in some of the other areas, and sheriffs that I've worked with throughout the state, those are the traits that I see in them.
What do you think, Amber?
I think that to have the mind of the liberal arts, I mean, it opens up a world of possibilities. For example, I host exchange students. And where they come from, their high schools are set up very similar to maybe a college. They might have like majors in a way. So you have your science and math track kids, or you have your liberal arts track kids. And you can tell a difference when they come to our community. You can tell a difference who the liberal art kids are. They have a greater appreciation for history. Not only their history, but the United States history, which is foreign to them, right? When they write little essays for their high school English class, it's like they're exploring different opportunities for that essay, and they're not just simply answering the question. So, you know, even at a level such as this, the liberal arts, it opens up a huge world. And that's nothing against, you know, perhaps a science person, but, you know, science is so, there's an answer. You know, there might be some theory behind it, but there's an answer. To where liberal arts, there are several answers. And maybe it's finding one or finding more than one, but it's exploring all of the answers and appreciating all of them. And it could open up possibilities of, you know, future. For example, you know, I'm in the master's program for English. So will I teach English for freshmen here at IU East or at another university, or will I pursue that even further to global, you know, teaching English in a different country or to non-English speakers? No idea, right? Because it opens up a gigantic world.
That's a great point. We were talking earlier about even in higher education, there are certain positions on campus that you need to have at least either a bachelor's degree or perhaps a master's degree. And you pursuing that master's in English is going to, you know, you can still continue doing what you're doing if you want. You're going to have even probably a wider skill set or knowledge base, who knows. But it will open up opportunities for you, having that credential. That's great. So part of what I do in career services, we have students come in frequently who, especially earlier in their college career, maybe they haven't decided a major, perhaps they're thinking about changing majors. And you know, this show is to promote humanities, social sciences, but of course I promote all areas. I work with all of our natural science, mathematics students, business, nursing. What would the two of you, with the knowledge that you have and where you are in your careers, what kind of counsel would you give to a person who is thinking about a major in humanities and social sciences? What might be some things you would say to them to consider?
I would suggest that in the technology world that we live in today, that they concentrate with that degree, pay careful attention to their communication classes. I can only speak for myself, but that has played a big part in what I've had to do. The other part of it is that don't ever give up. They're going to get frustrated. I probably feel the three of us can honestly state that sometime during our course of study that we did get frustrated. And don't quit. But also seek out someone that they trust that is in the academia field that they can go to as a mentor when they're having those down times or when they're not quite sure which direction they should go. To sit down and discuss it with them. And they will find that there are a lot of good people out there that are willing to fill that role as a mentor and give them some really good advice and give them some direction on where they need to go.
That's great.
I completely agree with you. It's very important to find somebody that you can go to when you're having those bad days or those questionable days. But probably have a focus. I mean, it's okay to change your major. It shows growth. But have a focus. You know, what do you want to do with that psychology degree or sociology degree or English degree? What do you want to do with that? Figure that out, and if it works out, great. If not, keep going, right? You know, my degree is very broad, and so I'm kind of narrowing that down so I can do what I want to do.
That's a great point. If you were interviewing a candidate for a position that you had, obviously in some fields, certain backgrounds are probably better than others, but generally speaking, how would a person with a liberal arts background stand out in a job application process? It may not be just that they have that degree listed, but what might be some things that you see even in a resume that would make that person stand out to you?
Communication skills. We keep going back to communication skills, but it is so important whether it's written or spoken. You have to, no matter what the job is, whether you are arresting somebody or teaching somebody or nursing somebody back to health, you have to have communication skills.
So you would want to see a very clearly written resume with probably no misspellings, typos to start with. And then that just perhaps gets them in the door for an interview. Okay.
Ours is process is just a little different because of the process that we have to have for our line of work. The communication skills really come out in the oral interview portion or the background investigation portion of our hiring process. The other thing that we look at, I would say 80% of our applicants right now already have an undergraduate degree. But the education doesn't just stop there. I'm very proud because I have 2 officers right now on my agency that have finished their master's degree, their graduate degree, while still working within the ranks of the agency here locally at IU East. And I support that. I think it's very important. We have a very good partnership with IU East and Ivy Tech. But the other thing I think we look at also is good organizational skills. And that can also be told by how the individual presents themselves during the oral interview. It also tells us a great deal by looking at when they prepare their information for us, for their background investigation, all the things we ask in their application, if the application is not filled out correctly,
Right.
or all the documentation we're requesting is not accompanying that application, that tells us a great deal also.
That's fantastic. Well, we're just about out of time for today. I want to thank you both again for taking time out of your schedules today to be with us.
Thank you.
And to be a part of this show, which is to promote the liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences, specifically here at IU East, but in general as well. And we are very proud of the 2 of you. You are 2 great examples of IU East alums. And again, thank you. And tune in next time for our next episode of Career Pathways. Thank you.